Just look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I'm on the rimfire range, and I've come at a time of day when I've pretty much got it all to myself. The sun's shining and beautiful outside, just like summer. Only right here on the rimfire range, the temperature's always nice and cool with a nice breeze blowing through. It's my favorite spot here. I wasn't going to spend a day like this in the shop building anything whatsoever. Not when I can come out here and piddle around with this. And I set myself up a couple of targets. One I can hit and one I can't hit. And someday I'll get good enough to hit the other one maybe. Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, the resident redneck. And today's video was inspired by watching a video over at Solid Rock Machine Shop. And we'll get into that here in just a few minutes, but I got some other stuff. I was wondering about my chuck. I got a 4-jaw chuck that has little screws that go in it, and they have a square hole in the end of them, and that square hole is starting to split on the corners on some of them, and I figure it's going to, I don't know when they're going to start to break, but once they break, it's sure going to be hard for me to tighten down that chuck. So I'll show you what they look like. This is an extra that I bought this lathe new, and then I sold it to a guy, and then a year later I bought it back, and some things like this came with it. And this is one of the I'm pretty sure this is one of the screws out of the chuck. Some of them that came back with it were broken, broken out on here, and the ones in the chuck were in good shape. So I'm assuming he broke them and bought some new pieces. Well, this isn't so easy to do now that Sears seems to be having difficulties and such, and the lathe's about 1,000,000 years old, and who knows about the chuck. I believe it says on the chuck it was made in England. I'll look at that in a minute and confirm it or not. But my first thought was, well, I'll just buy some ready threaded Acme thread rods and machine them to look like this, and machine a square hole in the end of each piece, and I'll be home free. Well, that didn't work out, and I'll get my cheaters on here and I'll show you why. Alright, so we're going to stick this little screw. Did I kick the... Oh, no I didn't. Alright, so stick this little screw in here and tighten down on the micrometer. And you can see it measures 0.68585. That's not the size of any standard Acme threaded screw that I can buy anywhere that I've been able to find. And it's 8 threads per inch. I've got this, let me back the camera up a little bit, zoomed in too much here. I've got this Acme thread gauge for 29-degree Acme threads. This one is for 8 threads per inch, and it goes in the holes, but if you'll notice, it doesn't go to the bottom, and that's because I guess that we don't have a 29-degree thread there. It's some other angle. So the answer to this will probably come from one of you guys, one of our English-speaking cousins in Britain or Australia or somewhere. Do you recognize this thread? Is this a size that's looks like something that's a British-made thing, something in the Whitworth or British Standard Acme, or who knows what kind of a name it might have? You recognize this thing? I don't know why I get oddball gears that nobody's ever seen, and now I got oddball threads. So I'm looking to buy me a threading tool to cut 8 threads per inch left-hand Acme threads, but I want to make sure I know what the angle is on that thing before I do it, because if I cut them at the wrong angle, it's not going to work. Oh well, maybe somebody knows what that is. Now then, we're going to move on over to today's project. Now this video is not going to start on the bandsaw, because the bandsaw is the video. What I've done in the past was, you know, when you get small objects to cut that stick out here, well, these jaws get lopsided and such when you tighten them down. Well, I put a chuckerator on here that I copied from Chuck Bomarito, and that helps a whole lot in keeping them straight. And then the other day I come across another idea. I would put, because I had stuff that was way out here beyond the jaws, it was that small, and I put a piece of metal down both sides and used a bolt and a nut to make them the right distance on the back, and that works too. But then today I was watching Solid Rock Machine Shop. He built a new jaw for the back of his vise. It's the same bandsaw as this. His is bigger and wider and fancier, but I don't have a solid piece of metal like that to use for anything, or even a crummy piece of metal like that. So what I'm going to do, he put 2 rows of holes in there, threaded holes in this jaw, and you can put clamps on it to hold things that are odd shaped or stick out wrong or whatever. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. So that's my project for today. I'll probably even get out the Tapmatic to do the holes. I'm going to set this thing up in the little grizzly mill drill and lay out 2 rows of holes, and we're going to thread them, and we'll be able to put clamps in there in those holes. And if we need the bolt between the pieces of metal kind of thing, well, we can still do that. I've got an idea for how to make that really easy also. Okay, so there you go. I hear a noise, sounds like rain outside. My weather station's showing thunderstorms, so I'll interrupt this and go peek out. I got busy and set that thing so it clamps straight to the back of the vise. But do you see anything wrong with it? Lucky me, I realized that's not the face of the jaw, that's the bottom. I got to roll it over. Picking things up over there, I come across this one. This is one of those chuck jaw screws that are dead in action. Alright, the black mark here is where there's a little web back behind there holding things together, and I don't want to weaken that any, so I'm going to inch across here, and that should probably do the job. And then come up here an inch this way and put holes across the thing, and we will slow that thing down a bit once it hits. I don't know why, but I was thinking the other day about when I was working overseas in the Berry gas plant. We had 7 big compressors. 4 of them were used for refrigeration, and 3 of them were compressing gas from the Abu Ali oil field. And Abu Ali means father of Ali, just in case you were interested in that. But these compressors were pretty large compared to things that I had worked with here. They were 20, each of them was 20,000 horsepower, which is a respectable size for an electric motor. And that's what they were. They were electric motor driven. And it was interesting, when you pushed the start button, it sounded like a locomotive ran into the side of the thing. It'd be a big kabam, and then it would take off running, you know. And we had to call SKICO, which was the Saudi Electrical Consolidated Organization, something like that, to get permission to start one of these motors up, because they suck down an awful lot of juice. And when we hit the button to start one, all the control room lights would dim for about 5 seconds or 10, and probably half the lights in the eastern province would do the same thing. You had refrigeration compressors had 4 suctions on them. We were using propane for a refrigerant, and I'm sure that's up enough. We were using propane for a refrigerant, and because we were doing cryogenic temperatures there, we were making liquid ethane, which we never sold a drop of the whole time I was there, but we were, I guess, proving the concept. We had a little unit back down behind everything with a 3 million gallon liquid ethane storage tank, and once a month we'd crank up that little unit and refill the liquid ethane tank. But anyway, get back to what I was talking about. These refrigeration compressors had 4 suctions on them, and each suction was running at a different pressure because we wanted different temperatures, you know, at each one, using the propane as refrigerant. Now then, you can't compress liquid propane any more than you compress any other liquid. So they're all equipped with a knockout drum on the suction side. If liquid starts coming over, about to get in the compressor, well then it'll fall out in that drum. And of course there's a level switch on that drum that's connected to the shutdown logic, and it would shut the thing down. So this was in the days we had electronic instruments where they weren't totally pneumatic. These were electronic over pneumatic stuff. And the guy at the board operator had a little knob he could turn and change the valve output by changing the air pressure on it. So he had 4 suctions to keep track of. They're all on manual. He's doing it all by hand. He's cranking a little bit, watch it, and crank it a little bit and watch it. And if he messed up, the darn compressor would trip off. Now this is kind of a problem because these are, you know, really high-powered electrical systems, and they get really hot starting that compressor. So if you tripped it off on the first start, you had to wait a half hour before you could start it again. If you tripped it off again, you had to wait, I don't remember, 45 minutes or an hour before the next start. And then if you tripped the compressor again, you had to wait like 2 hours to try to restart it. It was, you know, because the switch gear and the wires and the windings in the compressor and everything were getting increasingly overheated. I was just thinking about that, so I don't know that it's of any real interest to anybody. Lucky for me, I didn't have to fiddle the suction on the compressor. I was the supervisor, so I could stand there and criticize the guy that was doing all the work. You guys may have noticed that the little Grizzly mill drill is a lot wider than it used to be. Well, that's why. Got the belt cover leaning back away from the top of it so it quit rattling. It's a real job to take that thing off. If it wasn't so hard to do, I'd already have taken it off. I know. Safety violation. But there's only so much racket a guy can take. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.